Hi, I'm Mary. Thanks for joining me. I'm glad you're here. Today I wanted to talk to you about my top 10 favorite quilting tools and notions. You'll have to let me know in the comments if some of these are your favorites or if you have some recommendations that I should try. So let's go ahead and get started. In no particular order, the first thing I like to use is faultless heavy finish starch. Now, I know there's a lot of people who do not starch, and there are a lot of people who do. I am one of those who do. I love using starch. It makes for a much crisper, cleaner piece of fabric, and when you get working with it and stitching the fabrics together, you don't get a lot of that fraying that you sometimes get with unstarched fabric. It's a personal preference, but my preference is starch. Now, with that said, you need to be careful if you are using something like a layer cake or a charm prac, some of your pre-cuts, because there is shrinkage. Now, you will lose your shrinkage in your width of fabric. So if you are starching a jelly roll, you won't lose from your 2.5 inch, but you will lose some of your width of fabric. I have found that's never been a problem. In a layer cake or a charm pack, I tend to lose usually 1/4 inch, but I always account for at least 1/2 inch. So you need to read your pattern before you starch because you don't want to come up short on a pre-cut like that. And there are a couple patterns out there that you need every square inch of those charm packs and layer cakes. As far as fat quarters, I've never had a problem, but again, refer to your pattern. Make sure before you starch it that you have that little bit of room to lose if it's going to shrink. So the next thing that is one of my favorites is the Olfa ergonomic rotary cutter. I love this. There are some out there that have a little bit more weight to them, and those are great. But my biggest reason I like these is because when I am done with it, it closes up on its own. I can cut all day with it. I can keep setting it down. I know the blade is not exposed. And at the end of the day, I can lock it back up. I really like the idea of not worrying about my blade as I'm cutting through and reading a pattern and having to worry that I might leave the blade exposed and cut myself or somebody else come along and grab it and get cut. So I personally just love this ergonomic cutter. Like I said, I've got a couple of heavier weight ones. Those are great. But if I'm doing a lot of cutting, I want this one here that's going to close on its own. The next thing that I like to use is an assortment of rulers. So I'm kind of counting the rulers as one. The first one is this long ruler. It's a 24.5 by 6.5, 6 inches Quilter Select. This is fantastic for long cuts for me. About 1.5 years ago, a friend of mine had one and I got to use it and I really liked it. And the biggest reason is I have a tendency to push my rotary blade when I'm cutting. I'm trying to get better about that. I have gotten better about that. I am aware of it, so I always keep that in mind when I'm cutting. I also walk my hand up the ruler as I'm cutting to try to keep that from happening. And sometimes I even put a weight on the end, but I found the walking my hand works better for me. But I like that this doesn't slide over as easily as some of the other rulers do. This is just a fantastic ruler for long cuts for me. I do have some of their other ones that are smaller, but I do find them a little hard to see through sometimes for my fabric. So that sometimes is caused issues for me. I don't know if it has for you, but my eyes aren't what they used to be, I guess. So for smaller cuts, this is my absolute favorite. This is a Creative Grids 6.5 by 12.5 inch ruler. I use this for every project, it seems. When I'm making smaller cuts, I love this ruler. It's just such a perfect size, and I can see through it for my fabric really, really well. When I start getting down to smaller cuts, then I tend to go for the 5.5 inch square and 4.5 by 2.5 inch rectangle creative grids. These are just perfect for smaller cuts, and again, I can see through them a lot better. And they do have the grippies. They're not completely covered in the back with the grips, but when I'm cutting smaller pieces, I don't quite have that problem that I do with the longer pieces, where I really count on using the Quilter Select because of the whole grip all over the whole piece. And then my last most favorite used ruler is the Folded Corner Clipper Creative Grids ruler. I love this for when I'm finishing my quilts. I don't use it so much to make the binding. I still kind of do the binding the old-fashioned way, but I just love it. It's perfect for when you're attaching your binding to your quilt and you want to make that last cut to where the two ends meet. And using this ruler, it comes out perfect every time, and I just love it. Talking about binding, I love these little binding holder tools. These are great. I have quite a few different ones. They all look like this, but they're just perfect. They hold your binding on there perfect. I don't have any problem with having them sit in front of my machine and slowly unrolling it as I put it on my quilt. And they're just a great tool to have. You'll see what I've got a little note on here. When I make my quilt top, I make my binding, and then I send the quilt top off to my long armor, and I take and I make a note of what quilt it goes to, put it on this, and then I stick it in my binding box so that when my quilt comes back, I am ready to put my binding on. So the next tool I like to use a lot is the Sew Line pencil. I like these. They're nice and lightweight. They have an eraser if you need it, but it's got a mechanical pencil type of end, and they do have refills. And this is just a great pencil for writing on your fabric. It's made for writing on fabric, and I keep this. I have one in my travel kit, and I have one at my machine at all times. This is just a great writing tool to have for writing on fabric. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the seam ripper. Yes, I have used the seam ripper. I am the type of person who is a perfectionist. I cannot help it. If I have a seam that's off just a little bit, I am going to rip that sucker out. I cannot help it. And that's okay, because, you know, if somebody's okay with the seam being off a little, that's okay too. There are no quilt police out there that I know of. So I like this Clover seam ripper. It's just got a nice little grip. Get a good grip on that and just go at ripping your seam out. So this is my favorite seam ripper. And again, I actually have one in my travel case and one at my machine. Another thing that I absolutely love are these gypsy snips. They're nice and lightweight. They open back up on their own. They have a curved tip, so when you're clipping, you don't get your fabric. You can kind of snip away from it. If I'm doing a lot of chain piecing, I like to use either these, or sometimes I use the blade holder cutter. But my biggest problem is I have a tendency to not put enough space in between the two pieces that I've chain pieced. So when I go to cut my pieces apart on the cutter, I have a tendency to pull some stitches out because I've cut it too close. I've really cranked down on that thing. So I tend to go with the snips to be on the safe side. This has got to be my absolute favorite tool, the purple thing. I love it. It's great. I love that it's got the little 1/4 inch on it. I love that I don't have to get my fingers so close to the needle when I'm stitching. Push things through if I need to. This thing is just fantastic. I wished I'd invented it because this is great. I have one of these again in my travel case and another one at my machine in my studio. Speaking of which, I know there has been a few questions of people wanting to see my studio. Right now, I'm in a rearranging phase. Give me some time. I'll do some videos down there, but I need to finish the rearranging. And that's okay, because I know we all probably have that corner. Well, I've got more than one of those corners, so I will get it, and I will show you some of the pictures from my studio. In fact, I have a great Halloween art doll collection, and I keep it out all the time in my studio because I love Halloween. You'll have to let me know if you're a Halloween fanatic. So I love doing Halloween art dolls, and I will do a video here real soon to show you some of those. Another thing that this tool is good for is using it with the pressing seam bar. This is what you would put your fabric and seam on, give it a nice little gentle press. You don't want to press too hard with your fingers before you iron it because you don't want to stretch your fabric, and then you can take it and press it. But if you don't want to get your fingers close to your iron, you can use your little stylus end to kind of open it up. You just don't want to have it against the iron or you'll melt it. But this is a great tool. I love this. There's a couple different ones on the market. There's one that has a clapper bottom, but I like this one that does not have it. It's just my personal preference, and the reason for that is because I like using separate clappers, which is the next thing to talk about. I love using clappers. They make your fabric lay so flat. I have several. I do not like the finished wood ones. I personally like the unfinished wood. I think they are ones that work better because if you've used a lot of steam, it's going to wick that steam out of there. And as soon as you iron, you want to put these on that and let them do their work, and they will make your piece lie nice and flat. You don't want to cart your piece around for 5 minutes and then decide to put the clapper on it. It's got to be when it's warm, it works best. These are great. I've used these for years. I've made clothes and they're just fantastic. I've got a couple different sizes. They don't have to be super expensive. I have even used 2x2 pieces of wood way back in the day when I was trying to get seams to lay flat on an inside sleeve or something like that. So clappers have been around for a while, and you make do with what you've got. And then my next item that I like to use a lot now and has become one of my fast new favorites is triangle paper. There is a lot of different sizes on the market, and even a charm pack size, and Lisa Bungine from Primitive Gatherings designed these. She uses starch, and she does take into consideration the shrinkage of your charm packs if you're going to use the charm pack paper. So that's a good thing. So I think that covers my top 10 sewing tools and notions. With that said, I have one honorable mention, and that is a fan. This thing is great. It's actually pretty quiet, has adjustable speeds, and a rechargeable battery. I don't know about you, but sometimes when I am sitting with an iron and my machine, and especially if you're in an area with a lot of people, suddenly I am warmer than warm, and I do not like being overheated. So honorable mention goes to my handy fan that I absolutely love, let me know. I've tried a couple different other ones, but I like this one the best. A friend of mine told me about it. It's rechargeable, it's quiet, it has a lot of different speeds that you can have it on. You can change the angles. It's solid. It's a great fan, and so I consider that the honorable mention of my quilting tools. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know what your favorite tools are. Let me know if there's some I should check out. And I'm glad you stayed, and I hope you continue to follow my content. Be sure, if you like this video, to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you can be advised of future content. Until next time, have a great night, and thanks so much. Bye-bye.